So this video, we are going to talk about being a new director and how to get things going. I know a lot of times we have people that have never done theater, taught theater, that end up in this role, maybe because they're an English teacher or a journalism teacher, a music teacher, or you may have an outside club that is not school related, and you've never done it before. I've had a couple of teachers this year, new to musical theater in our district, that I've had to help out, and engaging with them, I realized some of the things that they were just didn't know. And so I've created this to kind of give you a guide as to, if I have never done this before, what do I need to know? What do I need to do so that I can be successful and not stressed and overwhelmed? So the first thing you need to do is request a meeting with your administration. Now that could be your direct principal, or if there is an AP that's over it, whoever you need to do, just talk to the principal secretary and say, I need a meeting. So in that meeting, you want them to explain their expectation of your club, class, show, however you're running it, so that you know clearly in your head what they are looking for. I would also recommend discussing prior shows with them or directors and make a list of things that did work and things that didn't work. After doing that, you can then address the ways that didn't work and how to fix those issues moving forward. Also, you need to bring up administration coverage or security for every show. That's something that you don't necessarily think about in your first year until it's the week of the show and you need admin there and there's not anybody there. So make sure that you get that when you get your calendar set in there. I would have a pre-designed contract that you plan on giving to your students, to have them sign so that they can look over it and they know your expectations, and they agree or give you something that you need to alter for that. And then discuss administrative repercussions of a student breaking a contract so that everybody's on board. So if you run into a situation where a student, say, misses a dress rehearsal, and in your contract it says if you miss one dress rehearsal, you are out of the show, you want to have admin back you up on that. So you want to make sure those expectations are clear and agreed upon between you and your administration. And then the next thing you need to do is get the names of the important people you need to talk to. Your bookkeeper, secretary, the facility manager, and the building level and at the district level, so that you are prepared to move forward and make sure you have everything together that you need to have. Meet with your bookkeeper or secretary. They're going to be one of your best friends. You are going to be whoever's in charge of money. There's a lot of paperwork and a lot of money that go into putting on a show. So you want to get to know them really well and create a good rapport with them, and make sure you're on the same page. So though you want to meet with them early to discuss what your budget is and best practices for dealing with all related monies. So your district may give you money. You may only have money that you have from fundraising or ticket sales. You need to know that information. You also need to know exactly what paperwork needs to be turned in for different procedures, how to take money, the expectation of that. So the next couple of slides, we're going to go into more detail about each one of those, to walk you through that. Purchasing is something that is imperative to get the supplies that you need for a show. So what do? So you need to discuss with them all the paperwork that goes in with public purchasing, how they like to purchase these items, such as, do they a PO? Do they prefer to do it on the P card? Do they prefer to do a check? You need to find out what they like to do, so that you know how to do those different forms or paperwork. You also need to know if you need to get prior approval, and if so, how many days. Like, you need to get 10-day prior approval to going to Goodwill to purchase some costumes. You need to know that information so that you don't get stuck not knowing what to do and then getting behind and not being able to get something you need. You also need to know what paperwork you need to fill out or volunteers fill out to get you reimbursed for items you buy, because we all know that it's show week, and well, you may not know because you're a new director, and you run out of mic tape and you got to run to the store and do that. And you're not going to have purchasing ability through your school, and you're going to have to pay for it yourself, and you want to get reimbursed for that. So make sure you get all that paperwork. It seems to be different from school to school, which is why it's so important you talk to your bookkeeper. The next thing is, does your school system have a preferred buyer? And if so, how to do that order. We do a lot personally with Amazon just because that's one of ours, but some different schools have, Staples is their main provider, or they may not have anyone at all. So, but just find that out so that you know how to go about purchasing that way. And the last thing, as far as purchasing goes, is talk to them about your tax exempt status and documentation for purchases. I know in our district, you have to have the tax exempt code whenever you use the P card or anything that's paid for by check. But if it is reimbursement, you will not get your taxes back unless you have that tax exempt form. So make sure you talk about that. Ask as many questions as possible till you know what you need to do as far as purchasing. As we all know, we sometimes hire out people to help us. So we're going to talk briefly about vendors and contractors. Many schools use independent contractors for such thing as choreography, costuming, building, renting, or other needs that you may have. So you need to discuss the details of contracting them versus having them as a vendor, and the documentation that you need and that they need to provide in order for you to get them paid. Usually it's a 1099, a copy of their license, signed contract. But you need to discuss that with them. So again, you have the proper paperwork for your people because you want to get your people paid. How will they get paid? Is it something where they have to send a check versus online payments? A lot of this changed during COVID. Prior to that, a lot of people just wanted to do a check, but now there's online payments. So check with them about how to do that. And then ask them if they have a preference. Most do, as they would rather pay for it on the card. They'd rather send a check. They'd rather do a PO. Again, talk to them about their preference. The next person you need to talk to is your facilities manager. Everyone has one in the building. It could be an AP, could be an assistant, but you need to find out who that person is and have a meeting with them. First thing you need to talk about is venue. Where will your show be held? Does your school have a venue? If not, what are your options? And then you need to talk about the proper paperwork or online place to go to secure your venue. You then need to choose a date for your show and make sure that that date is available. Don't forget to schedule in any days that you are using that facility for outside rehearsal. On show weeks, I would recommend just reserving it from 8 to 10. That way nobody can come in and have a meeting in your space while your set's on stage. So those are just things to think about. Make sure you fill out the necessary paperwork to request reserve your facility. If you're not sure how to do it, have your facilities manager sit down with you and show you how to do it. They're happy to do that. And then also make sure to inquire about custodial needs and security that you'll need for that week. This is a step sometimes people forget to ask about. And then during their show, there's no paper towels in the bathroom. So you need to make sure that those things are requested as well, and how to go about doing that. Okay, so that does it for this video about what you need to do before a show. The next one's going to talk about the actual execution of your show.